Hey, man, that was great. Thank you so much.
Good stuff, Ed. I mean, just good stuff. I'm so glad because, any radio, we were just on another one yesterday, a brand new station, and so I'll go anywhere as long as they allow the freedom. And you really allowed that. You pulled out that freedom to point to, to Jesus. And that's the centrality. And so I don't doubt that you've had victims listening and others.
Oh, yeah.
Just good stuff. And and what you said about the whole issue of it, prayer teams and going after it that way, that's exactly how we found, the victims, how we've engaged the underground. It's what is needed in all this.
Yeah, it seems to be the missing ingredient because we can't count on the cops or the army because they seem to be very heavily on the other side. But one thing I tell you too is I've met a lot of guys, chaplains, police chaplains, and they are tuned into this. What you're talking about. And
very good.
Yeah, how come is that? Now, what do you think that is?
I think because when you get recruited as a law enforcement chaplain or a military, they have to they have to be, if they're going to be believers, strong believers, they got to realize that like Wicca or Satanic covens, that's all within their manuals now, to where you're supposed to have to allow that to occur. Now, when I was a police chaplain, of course, we did not become. We just were believers in Christ. We said, this is how we'll do it.
Right,
we'll
you
pray
came
people,
in. You came in on that, yeah.
On that. Now there's more demands. But I would think that police chaplains, learning from law enforcement, hearing the stories, because every department in the 90s, I don't know across the nation, they were all getting specialists coming into the occult crime, satanic crimes, detectives, teams. That was happening all across the nation. Even the feds were learning.
But it seems like the other side got organized really quick, and they put together that false memory group and all that stuff.
Agreed. And they're still there, and they still battle, because they hate any kind of exposure. So, and a lot of the information that's out there on the Freedom of Information Act about MKUltra, of course, that's old. A lot of that's old. What's happening now is that it still goes on. And my concern in the military side of it, that more of it than ever in locations. I know we touched on the coven aspect of it, but like, for example, the state next to me, Pennsylvania, we've been over there 150 times. We've had over 100 victims just from there. And here's where the Nazi internment camps were, and the release of them, and the so-called Pennsylvania Dutch, which were Germans. So why is there a massive concentration in Pennsylvania, in every single city in Pennsylvania? Because the roots of it go all the way back. And here you have them building this false memory foundation, front in Philadelphia. It's amazing to me that they've gotten away with it. But like you, Ed, I believe that the prayers and God uncovering, and I think based on Ezekiel 8, He wills it to be found out. He wanted to take the prophet in. He wanted to take Ezekiel into and show him all the way to the perpetrators. He took them all the way in. But that happened by the hand of God, and I believe that if we have that as our backdrop and belief, that and really praying that God's going to unveil, we'll find more victims, and we will get to perpetrators. And when there's stop stuff in the early days, we have victims that are 50 that were begging, saying, "Oh, Russ, I wish we would have had help when we were 15. I wish somebody would have got us out when we were, 13 years old as a little girl being raped and abused and so forth." So it's broad, and now we want to get down to the helping out, as far as we can. So we're going to continue to do our part of it, but it's vast.
Yeah, amazing. But now it seems like also too, like you're saying, that these school shooters and these guys are a product of this type of activity as well. And also, too, and they have total control over the media. There's no doubt about that. I think it's like 100% control over the media and the music industry, no?
No question about the music. We can go back to the late 60s or even 70s. In the music industry, we see Slayer, we see other groups coming in, but now, Beyonce and you look at now some of the real, just in your face Illuminati stuff and all that coming out, is there. But, you look at Holmes, the shooter in Colorado, and you look at Jared, the shooter in Arizona. Now, from a distance, because I don't have them in front of me, but with them, I'm willing to say, I believe without question, they were programmed with subpersonalities, and they have handlers They were maybe the VTech shooter in Colorado, at VTech rather, that killed 30-some college students and blew himself away. And they all have suicide programming within them. Every one of them that we've engaged. We've engaged sub-personalities who are assassin trained. One pulled a weapon on me. And the bomber now, it's very clear, with multiple, evidences coming out now, this kid had sub-personality in him that was probably the bomber, probably the one being handled. So if that's true, then it's an outside source that created that in him, controlled him, and led him to do that.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Well, I really don't know where to go next. Just that I definitely want to have you back.
Sure.
What kind of topics would you want to get into?
We can like today was like today was like just bringing out a big, a lot of stuff. But anything we've talked about today can be broken down into bits.
Right.
And so we can go over, how do they create the splitting, programming, demonization? How do you detect them? How do you find them in your city? What is the healing side of it? The deliverance side of it? How does it connect to biblical prophecy? There's a lot of things you can do to break it down, and then give more definitive, content, because I'm sure you can.
Topics like McMartin preschool and satanic ritual abuse. When you Google that, when you search for that on YouTube, all you get is the excuses and the whitewash and the slander. So I want to create a record. My goal here is with this show is to create a record, an archive, where people can look up this information and get the truth.
Absolutely, and then see the McMartin one or even the Franklin cover-up. These all spell programming, child, and again, everything we've had were used. They were used as later children and teenagers sexually. It's all about that. All the rituals. You can't be an SRA and not have gone through hundreds of sexual rituals and be used. That's just part of it. But there's a case, an hour and a half from me, one of our guys that works with us, Tom Dunn, that there's a Presbyterian church, 50 kids involved. Now you can find that on the web too now. Tom's got more of the internal, now we have the internal law enforcement investigative stuff on it. But 50 kids, satanic ritual abuse, sexual abuse. 2 boys did go to prison. One of them was, I think both of them are still in prison right now. But this Presbyterian church, it was infiltrated, and a group of people behind the scenes began to do this with these kids over a period of time. Here's what it came down to. Back when it all got uncovered, they even brought Del Griffiths in on it, and he told them what they're going to need to really investigate this, and they didn't do it. But even the psychologist believes it's all true. Here's what occurred. They just kind of, they put 2 kids in jail, so this is all over now. Yeah. The difficulty now is all the other victims, many years later, they're still saying, hey, we're still victims. We still had this happen to us. There's some that have multiplicity, and they just kind of left it like this. So we're going to revisit the whole thing. We're going to kind of try to map out and track backwards to the perpetrators and talk to current. And I think we can do this with McMartin. I think we can do this with the Franklin side of things. We can talk to victims later down the road, because if they're real victims of SRA and PD or SRA ritual stuff, it doesn't go away just because law enforcement said we can't find anything, or we botched it, or we put one person in prison, that's good enough. The victims will still be victims until they get healing.
Seems like a pattern, though, that these organized Satanists go after the victims to keep them silent and to keep, like in the West Memphis 3 case. They are so organized, man. These guys are just crazy, man.
Well, and notice this. Notice who came in to help him, Johnny Depp.
You're right.
Okay. Now here's the story, and I don't know how much of this should go out.
Well, we're recording, so if you want to come back later on and tell us to edit it out, we can do that too. Or I could.
Well, I'm just going to say that in the music industry, they're now clearly showing individuals that are multiple, that had connection to Big Sur, California, where Echelon is, where Hunter Thompson. A lot of the mind control guys that could do the splitting, do the stuff, the process church people. There's that from the West Memphis 3 even there's like connections to that, and they're a very deadly and serious group, and they're still out there, by the way. And matter of fact, Maury Terry is going to be writing his new book, well, I think it's the Ultimate Evil. He's going to redo it all, and he's going to give the most current, up-to-date stuff. He's going to republish and put that out there. It's going to be incredible. He really did do a lot of great work.
Oh, yeah.
But I still think, and I told him this, on the spiritual side, if the prayers, like when he went to Utterberg Park and when he went to Staten Island and went to all these places, I think if the prayers that would pray for the breaking down of the supernatural side, for God to be involved in rescuing the victims and dealing with the perpetrators, that even more, far more, even with Dale Griffiths. I know Dale pretty well. I know his stuff. I've been to his home many times. We're meeting monthly now. I've got everything he's ever had on all the cases in 30 years. But Dale, he had a prayer warrior, a woman, this incredible black lady, powerful, prayer intercessor, spiritual warfare lady that was like, she really was his shield and behind him for over 20-some years, praying for him, praying for stuff, unbelievably. And because Dale is cut and dry in the sense, like, he says he's a believer, he goes to church, but he also says, he's got to deal with law enforcement and government and feds, so he's always about the facts, what's needed. He understands our approach with praying and spiritual side of it, and I just think even there, the cases, 2,000 some cases he got involved with, I just believe more can be found out, and more victims could be, freed, and I think that the cold cases, even the Finders case. Remember the Finders?
Yeah, I got some stuff on that. Are you familiar with Jim Rothstein? He's the ex-NYPD detective who investigated the Process Church and Son of Sam in New York.
He might have been in the documentary that Maury Terry got me connected to. I'm not sure.
He knows Maury Terry, yeah.
Okay, good. Now, did he work on the Finders case?
Yeah, he sent me a lot of stuff. He sent me a lot of police reports and stuff. But the one he sent me on the Finders, he did a report on the Finders case, and that link didn't come through. But I'm going to be having him back on. It was my most popular show, my most popular guest. Has a ton of information, yeah. And I'd love to get a hold of Dale Griffiths and Maury Terry. Is he doing interviews?
Yeah, I think that both of them would do interviews. I think Dale, cause I kind of, pushing him a little bit to come, I pushed him to come out and do this conference. He came, and I mean, he's 76. He did an excellent job. He came in like a bull and just came into that course and the training here and taught publicly. Maury Terry couldn't come, but he did do a live radio interview at the conference. And yeah, I think Maury would do that. I get you information to connect with them. And, but I think that the officer you're talking about, what's his name again?
Jim Rothstein.
Well, I can pretty much guarantee you they both know him well.
Oh yeah, he knows both, yeah.
Yeah, there's another officer up there, Mario, I believe he's Hispanic, they wanted me to connect with, was also involved with, he's still a cop, was involved with occult crimes in New York, Staten Island.
I'm from Staten Island.
Oh, you're from Staten Island?
Oh yeah.
Well, listen, you know the founder of the Process Church, DeGrasse,
yes,
lived there on that island.
Well,
you remember the stories of all the missing girls?
Well, yeah, right, the Cropsey case. Sure, I've seen that documentary. But I tell you, with those occult satanic rituals that were going on in the woods, my sister's friend was complaining to the police, saying, "Hey, there's devils. They're doing devil worship in the woods by our condos over here. We just bought this condo. What can you do about it?" And they told her, "There's nothing we can do. It's legal. They can go there and meet and do their rituals and do their practices and do whatever they want."
Well, and the sad thing is, I think they used the one guy that got put in prison. They used him to get some of these girls. Now, some of those bodies have never been found. They got people still hunting down the area, trying to find the bodies of some of those kids. But the interesting thing was, and I didn't know this, 2 years ago, that DeGrimston and some of the Process Church people lived on that island.
Oh yeah.
So, and then of course he took off from there and got out of there. But I mean, the way this goes backwards into, the Opperman Park or whatever, where the rituals were done with Son of Sam. Maury will tell you about, David now. Now, Maury, I can't tell you, he sounds like a moral man. I don't know whether he's a believer or not. I mean, he knew who we were, and he knew, my background and what I had to share publicly. So I can't tell you whether I know for sure yet. He's willing for me to come up and meet with him, take him out to dinner, go to Staten Island when it's warm, late spring. He's wants me to come up, and so we're going to do that. And again, our goal. I mean, if I'll end up witnessing to him if I can. But if he's not a believer, but there's no question he was fighting against evil, and he seemed very moral. But he really did uncover some stuff. And I think that he believes the Process Church was involved with the Arliss Perry case. He believes it was a real assassination kind of thing, ordered in a ritualistic format.
Okay, the Arliss Perry case. Real quick, refresh my memory on that.
Sure, she was a girl from I think it was South North Carolina or something like that. She went to school to Stanford there, and she was a strong Christian involved in Young Life, doing evangelism, sharing Christ in the 70s. And she got engaged with some people. They believed she was witnessing to Satanists. And really nice girl, really church-oriented girl. Got married, was at the campus. She got a visit the day before her death at where she worked, and people said it was kind of a real volatile thing. They thought it was her husband. It was not. It was some other guy that I think Maury Terry now can identify. Anyway, he leaves. She gets called out late. She goes out with her husband the next night late. She decides she's going to go over, or got called to go over to the actual chapel in the college university. It was open. At least they thought it was. Well, bottom line is they found her body. She had been tortured, sexually abused, and her legs cut off, and all this mutilation of the body. And it was put in the form of a ritual that's in the Zohar. Very sophisticated. They both Del Griffiths and Maury Terry believe that the Process Church ordered her killing. People, left North Carolina, went there to hunt her down, track her, stalk her, and then called her out to where they just mutilated, just destroyed her. Well, law enforcement came in, saw it. They just murder, grisly murder. They didn't understand the ritual side of it. They didn't understand the significance. The more Maury went into it and others went into it, they found out, hey, no, this is the Process Church is behind this. She knew information about somehow one of these Satanists gave her information. She had too much information, or she just made them mad. They went after her and just took her out that way. And that group may have been connected to the Finders in this sense. We believe we engaged the Finders face to face. Years ago, we were working during that time of the Finders when it was first coming out. We engaged. We were working with a federal officer's wife, SRA and PD. The federal officer was just, he didn't know what to do with his wife any longer. So we're dealing with it. She's abducted. We're looking for her. By our teams being up in Cleveland, we're praying. We ended up at this roadside restaurant. And it's really weird because we're dealing with, this is middle of July, St. James rituals, Youth for Christ, Abrea calls. They tell us they got this satanic ritually abused girl. We go meet her. She said she come in from a black bus out of New York. They're doing training. They're in the area. It's all about abducting kids, things like that. So all of this is going on. I get the call about the missing federal officer's wife. We go to this roadside place just to stop to meet him. He shows up there. In the parking lot is this big, flat, black painted old bus. On the front windshield above it, where the header is, where they can put like a bus would have a, locate, it said the Maniac. Now, it just looked ominous. And it reminded me of this other girl that we're dealing with already, told me about coming in on a black bus out of New York. So anyway, I go in to go to the restroom. Because as we look into the restaurant, we see 4 guys that look like mercs. They look like big military guys, muscle man shirts on, just tattoos. They're all sitting there, but all white, Americans. But off to the side, sitting in 2 tables connected, were probably 10 women from going down from like mid-20s to 7 years old. They were ragtag, dressed in really raggy-looking clothes. Their hairs looked like they've been sleeping in tents. I go in and I go to the restaurant. I looked over that there's nobody else in the restaurant. I looked over there, the guys would not look up at me. They're not even sitting with the girls. The girls are sitting separately, being led by the 25, 28-year-old two women. None of them would look up at me. It's like they all froze. So I walk over to the restroom. I'm in there, just kind of like praying. Come out of the restroom, look back at them. I'm looking out the front window, see their bus, the federal officers out there, and I'm like, these guys won't even look up at me. I'm looking at the girls. I come out and I tell the federal officer, I said, these girls in there are ritually, you call right now, get the police in here, run the bus down. We started to do that. Then all of a sudden he called that his wife had been found in the inner city of Cleveland. He's like, I'm out of here. I said, well, George, please at least call law enforcement. Tell them to get down here. I was told that they have AKs on the bus and all kinds of other stuff. These girls, I believe, are being transported, at the very least, human trafficking, which is bad enough. So I go off with the federal officer to find his wife. We come back. The bus is gone, of course. A statey did locate the bus, give us the license plate. The license plate of the bus goes to Youngstown, Ohio, and we have not been able to locate it since. But it has all the markings of the finders. Same thing. Military guys, CIA guys involved with it. They're transporting kids and girls. And it irks me to this day that we did not have, 5 cop cars in there and.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get the cops to do anything. You could hand them the whole case.
It's true. I mean, and again, I'm from the inside out. It's true because many of them don't know a thing about it. Some of them are like, well, like one chief of police locally here said, "Well, Russ, just bring us the bodies, and then we'll look into this." And I'm like, well, that's going to be a little too late. I mean, they want the bones. They don't want. I mean, they're this reactive oriented anyway, and there's no longer really any highly trained guys in the doing the satanic side of it, because it takes a lot. They just didn't know how to really go after this, and they didn't want to be embarrassed. They just didn't want to pay the price, and I think others like Dale did and Tony did and many others did pay the price to really dig in, and they found more and more and more.
Well, even Dale Griffiths, his reputation, they ridicule him to this day over that nonsense. Just because he got more education. If he would have went in there and not have been a doctor and not had his PhD and not had taken his extra coursework, he still would have been an expert.
Exactly.
They try and penalize you for taking, and I testify in court, and they do the same thing to me. Oh, you took a boot camp over the week. Okay, well, what if I didn't take it? I'd still be here.
Exactly.
I know, it's so frustrating. But most people,
it is.
They don't realize what testimony's like, what court's like. Because the West Memphis 3 case is a pretty, they got a fair trial. They got a good trial. Their confessions were good confessions.
Yeah, even afterwards, even after the one boy confessed again after it was all done.
Well, even before, he confessed to some relatives before they even came to arrest him, confessing about his shoes. Take my shoes.
Agree.
That's an open and shut case. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and now they're out on this clause, and now the thing is, they're all, William Ramsey and Dale both are predicting that, that Eccles will do it again, that he will be involved. And the sad thing is, he's out getting tattoos with Johnny Depp. He's got some of the deep, really sophisticated Crowlinian stuff. He's getting into the left-hand path stuff in a public way. So I don't know. Now he lives in Salem among all kinds of, you got Wiccans and Druids, and behind the scenes you got this kind of satanic, ritual abuse stuff. So who knows where he'll go from here.
Well, it seems that these people are falling over themselves to just lick this guy's feet, man, because they know he killed these kids in this ritual murder. And it was the power of the devil. I think that got him out of prison. But I believe he's going to get it. He's going to get it in the end, because the devil's going to want more out of him, and he's going to have to do another thing in order to get more power back, and ultimately he'll pay the price in the end. This time we'll get the death penalty.
Yeah. And the good news is there's cases across the land where even SRA, where there has been convictions and doesn't go far enough. With as many victims now, and that's our big thing right now, is just really praying for uncontested evidence, more underground evidence than we ever got before. We want stuff that just rips open the underground. And I think, again, based on Ezekiel 8, that's what we're praying for, looking for. And our approach, of course, is, number one, the victim's salvation help. healing, deliverance. They have so much they need, and yet behind every victim is the system that that it's going to victimize their kids and victimize their kids. And we've got 2 cases right now. One's given us a viable threat against my family, and out of Ashtabula, north of us. And it's just, but we still got to dig into it and help the victim, and yet keep our eyes wide open to see, and trust the Lord for what He's going to do in the midst of it.
Yeah, that we definitely have to have that faith and keep up that confidence that and even listen, God forbid something does happen, absent from the body, present with the Father.
There you go.
Because I have no fear. I have no fear of what can happen, to me. And
sure.
My family's saved, like I said. So thank God for that.
Absolutely.
Russ, thank you so much for doing a little after show with me.
Absolutely.
Why don't you tell the listeners where they could find you, your website, and your courses and all that kind of stuff?
Sure.
And then I'll let you go.
Sure. There's the main website is shatterthedarkness.net, and from there you can go to the courses, to the radio programs, to everything we offer, to the live courses coming up again, and just everything's there. So we deeply appreciate it, and what you're doing there. It's a great connection. It's I know we'll